Good.
Hey.
Could you tilt your camera the other way?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I feel really good today. So it's
Oh,
nice to see you as well.
yes, it's so good. I have missed you guys so much. I'm like, can't wait to hug people. I really can't. It's a little bit hectic.
Yeah, it's
So,
not easy times, but
no, not at all. If you could just move a little to the middle of the screen, there you go. Much better because you're a
all
little.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've never done this before,
No,
but
no, it's like it's all learning for all of us.
okay,
So
cool.
yeah, basically we'll just sort of kick off. I'll leave your introduction and sort of that to you, and then we'll get into the sort of conversation part.
Okay, cool. So I'm Fatima. Um, I was born in London, but ethnically I'm from Sierra Leone, Mali, and Liberia. Um, uh, what other questions? I guess
Like,
that's
or
a good
maybe where you
introduction.
studied or how you came to find art, like your introduction to art, really.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I've always done art throughout school. I've always done drama and theatre. I had like an amazing drama teacher who's basically my mentor now, who encourages me to keep performing, but I don't really perform much anymore. I still write poetry, but I don't really perform much anymore. Because I'm more into like modeling and painting now.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of like figurative work, I'd say I got really interested in doing figurative things around like college times. I was pretty much always intrigued by the way different groups of people their features looked, and I wanted to express that through drawing and painting. Um, I didn't really have like the greatest skills to do that though, which was really frustrating. I was always pretty hard on myself about it because in my head I had an idea of how it was supposed to look and my hands couldn't do that. So, and I was quite stubborn about studying art as well because I just felt like the environment I was in after college just wasn't the right art school for me. Um, I just felt too much pressure, so I ended up dropping out and going to study visual culture, so like essays. I guess it's like humanities, but it's like cultural studies combined with art history. So I wanted to like go back to basics and learn the history about art, which was pretty good. And then after that, I decided that I really liked, well, I guess I really hated my job at the time because I was in retail full time, and I just thought, wow, this is like killing me. I can't do this. I have to not ignore my instincts anymore and just kind of go for it with pursuing art. But as you know, everybody has like their self-saboteur in their head that's telling them like, how are you going to make money out of this? You can't do this. This is what everybody else is doing. You have to stay in this horrible industry that's going to kill you eventually. So I don't know. I just suddenly just decided to quit when I'd had enough. I had too many issues in the work environment. I was just like, do you know what? I want to be a freelancer. I can't do this. I can't work for people like this under
Yeah.
this pressure. So I quit and became a life model, um, which was really fun at first, because I felt like I had the freedom to do what I want. But as you know, nothing's easy. All jobs have their complexities and issues and yeah, problems. I had issues with a lot of people, but I enjoyed it so much. I thought it was worth the trouble, so I kept pursuing it. And then I um, landed at this institution that is quite traditional with fine art and stuff. And I thought, wow, this is exactly what I've always wanted to do. But I didn't know schools like this really existed, was in my reach. So I I asked some of the students that were painting me like how they did it because it was a private institution. It was very expensive, but there were some people that were on like bursaries and stuff. So there was a possibility, and as the longer I modeled there, the more I got familiar with the artists and staff and shared my work with them, and they shared their work with me. And I was just so inspired by it all. They were like, you should really go for the diploma. So the following year, I applied, like, after working there for a year. I applied to be on the portraiture diploma there. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. And it's given me a lot more confidence with my drawing skills and painting. And I'd never really done oil painting before I modeled, actually. So it was a good way to get into it, always being in the environment of people doing that.
Yeah, it's like a year ago I started the Hanway Collective, and I was in a similar situation to you. I've taken a sabbatical from my retail job, but yeah, it was more the kind of person that I had become in that environment, and it's so restrictive, and you're never allowed to sort of change. And that's what was so frustrating towards the point where I had to take my sabbatical, because it was like, not to take away from the people I've met and the things that I've done and the artists that I've all in Hanway, I've met all through IKEA, to be fair. So I don't disrespect what I have in that job, but it was also to a point where I was like, I have to really listen if I want to be an artist one day, but I'm not really sort of sure yet, but I really want to support other artists. Then if I can do exhibitions for people, at least I'm surrounded by people who kind of drive me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah.
I've wanted to try live modeling for ages and ages, and knowing you and James and seeing you guys every week with our drawing.
Do it, man. It's not even as bad as you think. Like, as soon as you take off your clothes, you forget that you're naked. It was like the most therapeutic thing for me to ever do. It was like, when I first started, it was like the best thing ever. At the time, I was like, this is amazing. I'm getting paid to do something I would do for free, basically. This is like the best thing ever. But it's just, if you're really stressed, it was my thing, basically, to do whenever I was stressed and or I was just thinking too much about things. It was just so nice to just be able to be still, basically, and just meditate, basically.
Like I say, like surrounding myself with like you guys, and then learning like James is really into photography, and you really are. I'm like such a fan. Oh my God, going through all your stuff, I'm like, wow, this woman is so much more. And like, to be fair, I see you quite often. Like, I see you more than I see some of my friends, to be fair, when we're allowed to be near each other and we have Sunday classes. Like, I see you more than some of the closest people in my life more often.
Yeah.
And I knew so little about the extent and depth of your artistry, so it's been so cool to research you and be all like, stalk her on Instagram, and like, like inspiring to see this person who I see every week has all these layers and these different things that she's interested in. And it also makes me think, how do I talk to people then? Like, to want to know this stuff, I would want to know that stuff straight away. So it's like, am I providing an environment that you can actually not show off, but yeah, show off a little? Like, yeah, this is
yeah, I get what you mean. To share, basically. Yeah.
Often we don't even know the ways to get people to share that stuff with us without it making them feel uncomfortable, or us being all like,
yeah. I guess it depends on your personality type as well, because you do get people that are will just talk about themselves and their work and what they've done. As I guess it depends on your intentions and where you're at in life as well. I've just never, I don't know, I find that quite, I guess it would, for me, it would have to be in the right kind of environment, or if somebody brought up the conversation.
yeah,
like, I wouldn't
that's
talk about it over dinner. Like, I don't know. It just depends.
Someone's asking, what are you guys talking about? Oh, we're talking about Fatima's amazing art. We're just having a conversation. I don't know, you've thrown us now. I don't know what we were talking about. It is amazing, like you say, to surround yourself in that environment at school. Finding the right school as well was really important.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crucial to find. You know, you talked a bit about the inner saboteur voice, and we had a mindfulness coach yesterday who really gave some great practical advice how to really refocus yourself and let go of those negative inner thoughts and build yourself up, like almost working your emotional response instead of being sort of a victim of your response, being responsible for it. So that's it's really hard, like to put your soul out there, and your performance art as well. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. I'd say that was just I guess at the time I was going through a lot of pain, and I felt like that was the only way I could express it in a way that would heal me. And it is very, I'd say out of all the artistic ways I express myself, performance is the hardest because I'm such a nervous person that's a bit shy. So, and I don't like the audience coming up to me after and asking me questions, and I'd rather just express it and then like everybody just thinks whatever they want, rather than me telling you about what I was going through. But it's more of a need to just like heal myself than to I don't know.
Yeah, and like I was saying this the other day, because there's some people who are really uncomfortable having this type of conversation with me. You know, they'd rather sort of stand next to something, and that's totally fine. You know, I just want there to be a way for people to hear a little bit, because like in a gallery, like there's so many people trying to talk to the artist. There's so many people trying to talk to you, and after you've given all of that, it's exhausting after an exhibition to have been the artist everything. I don't even want to stay at the after part. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I just go lie down and cry somewhere, because it's like, oh, it's done, and people have opinions, and maybe they don't like it, and I don't care. It's just, and like, it can be so stressful afterwards. And then I do find that I hope these bring people a little closer to understanding who you guys are without it having to be sort of cheesy, or you're stuck in a room of 20 people and they're all like, and now? And what else? Because if you go now after this and look into your Instagram profile and find ways to connect with you and work with you and stuff. But it's tough.
It is a tough one, yeah, but I think that's part of the journey as well. In a way, it's kind of like selfish of me to say that, to just make all this stuff and just assume that, you know, people aren't going to care as much, or just it won't affect anyone, or I don't know. I just see it as a way to take care of myself, and I guess the aftermath is something I never think about too much. I don't think enough about the way it might have an impact on someone else, or I just don't really think about why people would be interested in it. I just need to I just really need to express myself in this way, because it's my way of being. And if you like it and you don't know why and you want to buy it, then yeah, go ahead. I don't mind.
I do think it's important to have, like, I struggle a little when it's just sort of a descriptive thing with the name. Like I need, even if it's just something at the beginning, like a bio of the artist, I need something I obviously will stand in front of the work first and feel like, okay, how do I feel when I look at this piece? How does it move me? You know, like the portrait stuff, some of the lino cuttings that you've just done recently, they're stunning to me. I really, really like them. And you've got one with 3 figures. And I really feel that kind of, I don't know, it feels maybe like an angst or a kind of pain, but the way you've captured it for me, like it's a beautiful thing. But in going through your stuff and learning a little bit more about you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm lucky as well, actually, that I'm not isolating alone. I'm isolating with my family, so it's really nice. Yeah.
And that's what's been really hard for me, is like noticing that I work really hard at my home being a really safe space, because I live and work in London. I don't have super loads of money, but people can come to the house, and we have a garden, and you know, it's it's our old house, but we keep it clean, and thank God for that, because now that we have our own studio to be painting in all day if we want to. We have a garden my sister's redone. Like, and
Yeah.
some people are being abused and forced to be living in the same houses. Like,
Yeah.
I've
I
never
know.
thought about that until like 2 or 3 weeks in. I was like, oh, imagine when your home
Mm,
is not safe. Like, that's what I hope
yeah.
we're looking at, is being more diligent in who we live with, how we live with them, making
Yeah.
spaces for ourselves.
Yeah, I think this is the way we're living right now is a big teaching curve, a big learning curve as well, actually. It's a time to learn a lot about yourself, I think. Um,
Mm,
and maybe a good time to develop yourself too, inwardly and outwardly, I
yeah.
think, if you can. Anyway. But
Like people say
because
that,
I don't know, it's just made me realize how much everything, like in terms of the economy and working, is so much of a distraction from actually taking care of yourself.
yeah,
So, and now is like the best time to do that because we're not as restricted as we think. We can still go outside and exercise and go to the supermarket. It's not, you know, like
yeah, it's
Spain
that
or Italy.
they can't go
But
out anything in South Africa. It's really a lockdown. Like people are all
yeah.
laughing, like, oh, you can't drink your toilet paper, can you? All the bottle stores, everything is shut. That's not like super, super essential. And we can still go out for an hour, exercise, like
Exactly.
slow down. London has never slowed down. And then
Yeah.
everyone's bored. How can you be bored? Like you want to be bored then. If you're telling me you're bored, you want to be bored. There's so
Yeah,
much
that's
to
true.
look into, and it's also okay to be bored. We were bored as children before we had laptops and iPads. I was
True.
bored plenty as a child, and it led you to more creative things and doing, because like you better start doing something or you got nothing going on.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. I mean, people are Zooming and I guess what's the other one? Zoom and house partying
House
more than
party.
ever now, which is cool. I like the interactions online, the video chats. Um, it's made me, I guess, connect with people that I haven't done in years as well because of time and being busy and yeah. So as bad as it is, it's kind of good as well. Like good things
Yeah.
are happening, even though
It,
it's not
we
good.
like you say, you and I are in a safe home. We have the internet, we have our family. Like we are really lucky, and if we're not taking
Yeah,
advantage of this time, it isn't going to happen again. Like
yeah, exactly.
this one time is all that's
Well, I
done now.
hope not. Yeah, I hope it doesn't. But
But going back to your art, so if I can start with, and I think I want to reword this question as not your proudest moment, but what's your most important moment to date connected with your art, either modeling or painting or both?
um,
So much, girl, you do so much.
uh, yeah, I know. I'm trying to think. I would say was when I did a performance poetry piece called "For Us by Us" at Theatre Peckham. And at the time, I was really being affected by like social cleansing and stuff. And because I live in Peckham, like I grew up in Peckham, so
Mm.
I've pretty much seen how drastically it's changed. And I guess like at the peak of it, I was at uni in Brighton, but then when I came back, I just didn't know how to digest all the changes, all the new people. Um, in the space, all the spaces being created that weren't for people like me. Um, yeah, so I wrote a poem about it. And because I thought it was just so like people might find it quite offensive, because I just literally just like poured myself out without filtering anything. I was completely honest with myself, and I knew it would offend or make some people upset.
Good.
But not intentionally. I was just being honest. I had to just do myself that duty for once. Um, again, it was like a matter of survival, mentally. So I decided to do a bit of research on like physical theatre because I had some training in that when I was younger. And
Yeah.
I was really interested in this group called Deviate. I guess I think they're a theatre company or a dance company that do like performance poetry, but do like intricate movement to kind of back up their words. And I thought, oh, this would be a good way to distract the audience from taking the words so offensively. So so yeah, I made up like a piece that was very physical, and it got picked up at Theatre Peckham by my mentor who was working there at the time, and she asked me to perform it because she thought it was really important for what was happening at the time. And so yeah, that was I'd say a highlight, because I just felt I felt so much emotion all at the same time, which I don't think I've felt like that about any other piece, like mixed emotion. Like I was happy but scared and sad and overwhelmed and satisfied and all kinds of stuff. And then someone in the audience picked it up and asked me to perform it again at a different theatre, and I did, but then I just couldn't deal with how overwhelming it felt after, and to deal with like all the questions and to deal with other people's emotions because of what I've said. Like, so I just thought I don't want to perform right now anymore. I'll keep writing, but I don't want to perform anymore. It's just a bit much with everything else I do. But yeah, I'd say that was the highlight, definitely.
Oh, awesome. Oh, that sounds so cool. I can't wait to hear it. Is it still up on at Peckham Theatre?
No, this happened in 2018. It was part of a showcase of like different performers.
They have the clip of it or any recordings anyway?
Yeah, I have a clip of it that I can send to you. I have a clip of it that I'll send to you later. I just didn't think I would want to share it on my Instagram because, again, questions and dealing with people's emotions. I don't put everything on my page because, again, dealing with people, you know. I feel like we're living in a time where people actually go out of their way to be offended, or to look for triggers, or, you know. Or
I get it, like, and maybe I'm a small retard, but being bullied by somebody I've never met on an online platform, I don't really get the time. If I don't like something, I just scroll past it. I don't leave. Like, if it's made me angry and I'm passionate about the subject, I'll go across a little angry face. These people have got time to sit through, and I'm like, nothing. And they've got no posts. You can't see anything on their, and it's just like, you'll have time for this. Like, you don't even know this person. If you have nothing nice to say, unless it's like really constructive and from your perspective and your point of view, and even then, if I don't ask you,
I know.
I don't rat's ass about it. I'm so sorry, because we also often just give our opinion and we're like, oh, did that person even ask? Or were they just sharing something? Oh my.
Exactly,
I mean, art is hectic, and that must have been so.
Yeah.
I kind of could have done a press conference the day after.
Yeah, I honestly just don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. Or I don't know. It's just really draining to deal with. To me, it's just extra stuff, you know. Because it wasn't my intention to hurt anyone. I just really needed to express myself in this way, and I'm open to like conversations, but if it's just being like malicious about you being triggered or hurt by things that I said, I can't help that. There's nothing, I really can't do anything about that. I've just, sorry, also, I don't know.
I find that it's a lot of the time what people are trying to project. If they find a truth in what you've said that fundamentally doesn't agree with like their cognitive dissonance about who they are, they're so offensive, and you're like, but remove your emotion from what I just said. It's nothing to do with you. It's what I feel like I've just said.
Exactly.
And your opinion of it is fantastic, but it's none of my business.
Yeah, all my responsibility. That's the main thing for me. It's just the things that, this sounds very ignorant, I'm sorry, but it's something I've always thought that it's not really my responsibility to deal with that kind of stuff at all when I make art. but it is at the same time because I've made it. But
The main thing is your responsibility to us, your audience, or whoever is going to see it, is that you're honest. Like,
yeah, exactly,
it
yeah.
doesn't really matter what, and like it really is my opinion of you and your opinion of me is
Yeah,
none of my or your business.
yeah,
Like,
exactly, yeah.
it could be so damaging. I could say one comment that I'm not even thinking about, or I'm using it just in a factual way, and you could
Yeah,
take it so personally that one day, because for whatever reason, and I've managed to hurt you or to stop a process, and that's so
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
Listening to who you listen to in your life,
yeah,
because you have really destructive people around you, but you can keep them if it's a nice party on a Friday. But you don't have to
exactly.
hide from them. Like, learning that is kind of key, yeah, definitely.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, that's my view on that, really. And I guess I am still quite sensitive about, I'm very sensitive, which is why I don't post everything that I make. I
Yeah.
think I'm quite cautious about, um, like, I don't share my poetry at all because, yeah, I'm just quite sensitive about triggering people and dealing with their emotions, about picking out words and turning it into other things and basically. So yeah, I'm just not. Maybe later on in life I might be, because I still have I don't know, a lot of character building to
Mm.
do, as you know, I'm very young. But yeah, for now, I just really just am on selling my prints and portraits, and yeah.
Yeah, I saw. I wanted to talk to you a bit about that more at the end, to see how people and other artists can support you and what it is you're doing with that, because that's really interesting. But at the end, once we've
Okay.
gone through, okay. So now sort of I've asked about like the sunshine, and now like, is there a moment that stood out to you that was really apprehensive, and then how you sort of got over that apprehensive moment connected to your art?
Um. uh, I don't think I know what apprehensive
Oh,
means.
sorry, like scary. Sorry, I'm trying to find better words
Yeah.
than negative
I thought it was
disrespect.
a good word. I was thinking, is it? But okay, scary moment.
Yeah,
I think I think every time I make uh, a piece about a commentary, like about what's happening, and from my view, I think that's always quite scary. The process is always fun. Like, I'm always listening to music, like saying stuff that I shouldn't be saying because I'm by myself. Um, but then when it's finished, or I'm thinking about how to get it out there, or if I should, those kind of thoughts and emotions are scary about how people will react to it. So, and by like societal issues, a lot of the things I have done in the past have to do with like race, um or just being, or marginalized people being treated unfairly, or uh my reactions to people like, I guess, like, do you know Beyonce's sister Solange?
mm.
Yeah, like when she made a seat at the table, um that just brought out so many ideas that I was
She's
I guess a
phenomenal.
bit, I was too scared to express my thoughts on race because I didn't feel like they were valid, or um I guess I thought it was just like personal. I didn't think it was happening to loads of people, like it was a universe. But then when she released that album, I related to it so much, even though that she's American, and the Black American experience is a bit different from the British one, yet so similar.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, everything she said I could relate to in in some way or form. So I started making like collages about it, and re-listening to some of the song lyrics and thinking, what gave her the courage to do this? Like, how could she just?
That's what I was discussing with a photographer artist I spoke to on Tuesday. He's also a nurse, and his next exhibition is Daughters of the Diaspora. So all female African artists. He's trying to work out a way to bring them and exhibit them, because, you know, what I'm trying to say is your point is so valid, especially today, especially about race, because like white people will say racist shit in front of me, but they'll say it one time because like, you know, I do understand a lot of them are European. They literally don't have black people in the village that they grew up in. Like, in Europe than they are in Africa. Like, I'm not really stressed out when I learned this. I'm like, you live in a village and you lot have been saying this in South Africa for how many years now, that living in a hut and shit. They don't need a concrete building, idiot. They need a hut because it works. But anyway, and we were having this debate because I am pro-black. It doesn't mean that I'm anti-white. Yeah. But I'll follow some black people on Instagram just purely to like their things, so their algorithms are improved, because especially black females in my eyes are well, what you women have been through when we all came from you, it blows my mind. Like science, it's such the truth, and we can't just appreciate that, you know, we don't have to culturally appropriate, we can just appreciate the culture. Here are black and Asian, and I have like one or two white people, but everyone else in my life, my godson is black, all my undercover godchildren that are Muslim that are not allowed godmothers are black. But, you know, I felt in that space because I also don't want to just be this like white auntie who doesn't understand your heritage, doesn't know about your because, but I don't want to necessarily go and get box braids, get cane rows put in, and like, that's my beef. I'm just like, why did we have to take and take and take and give no credit? I cannot bear, that's my main thing. It's like, all we did was take, but we haven't given the appropriate, like, we need to say sorry and really be sorry. And you need to understand the advantages we've gained, whether we've utilized them or not is up to each individual, but we are in a better standing point straight away. Yeah. Straight away from what my parents have been allowed to buy. Like, there's black people in South Africa that lived inside apartheid still today. Like, they have to carry a passport around all day and go to bed at 9 o'clock at night as an adult. Imagine telling an English person that.
That's really bad.
And that's what I'm like. I don't want to have white guilt because I don't have any racism. To me, so it's hysterical. It's retarded. Because
I think that's what has driven all of this, though. Like, why all of this is still happening, because of white guilt and not wanting to acknowledge it's the ego, isn't it? Like, it's just not wanting to accept that you've done something wrong. And I guess it's the whole reason why people are oppressed is because of fear. You're scared that they'll take over or they'll
100%.
I don't know.
I think we really fear because there is so much creativity that naturally comes out. Like, I've been to black and white barbecues, and yes, some white barbecues are fun, but like, there's nothing like Caribbean or African barbecue. Like, I really get it. Like, but all my tribe did was they walked a little bit further away from Africa, and we don't need the melanin anymore. That's it. There is no, you want to be safe, I want to be safe. But I think it's so important that you put your stuff out there, because right now, when everyone thinks it's better, is when it's fundamentally worse. Because England would like to seem more polite. They seem more interested in being polite than anything else I've noticed over the years of living here.
Yeah, but it's actually just passive aggression, isn't it? It's just,
But my feelings are like, I'll say to people, do you have anyone's, like, have you been into a Muslim home? Have you actually had a conversation with a Muslim person about their faith, why they feel like that? You don't have to become a Muslim, but because I don't want to be ignorant, I try to put myself in situations where I'm like, okay, let me go and break a fast with a Muslim family because they'll invite me because they're really lovely. So
Yeah.
I'll go do that. And then I'm a little less ignorant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And to be fair, it's a lot of where you're born and geographically placed based on what
Yeah,
religion
it's true.
you follow.
And it's breaking those kind of boundaries. I mean, I guess with what you said, London is the best place to do that because it's so multicultural,
Super.
and you have like second generation people who will probably allow you to come and break their do you know what I mean? Because they're British, in
But
terms of where they were born.
I'm trying to not be that ignorant British person.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
show that to me because they're loving, caring, kind people.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead
People,
of
yeah.
distance, and that, like even putting walls up in our homes, that creates distance. That
Yeah,
creates a way, like you look at African, like proper villages where they still practice eating all together, where everyone just
yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
day, the whole community is together because it takes a village.
To raise a
Like it,
child, it does.
and that's why the more we put up walls and separate ourselves, like then all young men go and work and earn money, and then you're left defenseless. And the community suffers so much because you're ripping these communities apart and forcing them, like this work at home stuff we're doing now. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, no one could work from home before, yeah? Now companies have found real interesting ways to get around that. So why not appreciate that our life balance is more important than our work balance, and find ways for us to support each other and do it differently because it's not working.
I guess, well, it is working for some. Like, I think,
Yeah.
with everything you've just said, it's all, for me, I feel like it all has to do with like capitalism and the way it works. It's people have to be selfish in order for it to thrive. Like, there's no like community, or like you just can't do that if you want to be rich, basically.
But these people are also from families where, this is the 1% where they've got no real, they've never seen £53 a week. And one of them's proposing that that's what we should have had, to pay moms. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's a pretty messed up world, but
But that's what I
this
mean.
is
Like,
why we
that's
should
where
do art. I'm joking.
people are seeing, like, the billionaires are trying to get the people back to work
Yeah.
because they don't make money if you don't make money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not only just the billionaires, it's just the fact that the people who control the country have never met people like me, or will never want to understand how difficult life can be, yet they have so much control over your life. I think that already says how messed up it is, and
And
yeah,
I hope that
and the
changes.
rest is just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
But to think that, this is why I kind of stopped watching the news, because it's like it just angers me and frustrates me to think that this blonde guy has no idea what it's like to suffer financially, or to
Yeah.
does he even go and get his own like shopping? I don't know. Like does he keep a shit? I don't know. But here he is controlling our lives, you know.
You really do deserve to be heard because, like you say, when you did your performance, the engagement was so overwhelming for you. And, even if you did open a separate Instagram that was just your poetry and you turn the comments off,
Yeah.
it really it resonates a lot with people. Well, for me, I love the art that you do. It resonates so much with me. And if I'm able to have access to the written stuff, I
Yeah.
think it's important because there's other young Black females who need to hear that they don't have to be sexualized or angry. There is
Yeah.
space on the whole spectrum as a woman for you to be free to be. And I
Yeah.
understand why so many people think Black women are either hypersexualized or really aggressive, because
Yeah.
you don't take a lot of shit. Like in the Black women that I know are really going to tell you about yourself, and they have that look of like, it's over, because as well they've had to suffer so much and become the patriarch of an entire race, because
Yeah.
not necessarily in Africa there's a bit more of that sort of traditional man run shit, but in the places where you guys were stolen to, these women had to be everything, and they're still having.
Yeah. I think that's another thing I didn't want to be as well. and I guess it's something that a lot of Black female artists probably go through as well, like being put into that box of angry when you express yourself, and which was why I added movement to the piece that I did, because I didn't want to just stand there and, you know, be angry, basically.
What a disgusting environment where we can have someone shouting out the vagina monologues, but because she's white, it's okay. Like,
no, but that's not even it. It's like, it's almost like an automatic like response that people do. It's like the minute you start talking about how uncomfortable you are in this environment, even in a workspace as a Black person, or surrounded by, as the minority, basically, just saying something that's offended you or you feel uncomfortable about, people start rolling their eyes, because it's
exactly, because you
happened
just,
since the beginning of slavery, basically. You know, it's just like,
we
same
still need
shit, different generation, you know. It's like
the same shit because it's still really bad.
happening, yeah. But that's why it keeps happening, because people are still rolling their eyes and copying what their ancestors did, basically. It's just stuff that's been passed down, and I guess like what we said earlier, if people are not willing to acknowledge it, there doesn't even need to be an apology. It's just like listening, basically, and just
But for me,
talking about it instead of being defensive, because that's exactly what happens when it's confronted. You know, white people get really defensive, I guess because to them the physical parts of slavery are not actually happening anymore. We're living in the after effects of it, and
only
what's the worst person a white person could be accused of is being racist. So it's like, I'm not racist, even though like you've I don't know, displayed like behavior to offend a person of color. But
even having the
this is
repertoire of,
why I just really don't have conversations with white people like this anymore, because of how tired I am of being flim-flammed, which is like, did that happen? No, that didn't happen. Did this, like, making me, I will actually go crazy. I felt like I was gonna go crazy so many times, or I felt like, did that really just happen, or did it happen in my head? Or if I confront this, everybody will just act like it happened in my head. So, and I guess that's what the massive difference is between like America and this country, like what you mentioned before about the over politeness gone wrong. American white people are very straight up. Don't come here. This is my property. They've got guns. Whereas here it's a lot more subtle. You could go crazier, easier, because they're so in denial about it. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to say that it's better in America or easier to navigate around. It's just different, completely different.
but then in South Africa, after Nelson Mandela was released, there was, and it went a long way to rebuild, you know, my country, you know, and Nelson Mandela appreciated that, okay, by melanin standards, I don't belong there, but we're there. We're there as a whole nation together. But there was an apology. And I always feel like, I know you say that there doesn't need to be one, but I really feel like there has to be. There's things we need to, because like if you and I have a falling out and it's my fault, there has to be a level of apology to you and a level of action to show you that I'm genuinely sorry.
Yeah,
So,
but then I could still not be ready to accept. The reason why I'm saying that is because whether or not there's an apology, you're still gonna have to deal with it, like, and just forgive in your own time. But I personally don't feel like I need to hear a sorry from white people, because I feel like it's something that I just need to deal with in my own, and I will eventually get, well, I don't know if it keeps happening, I don't know if I will, but eventually I will. The intention is to just not see it as like a thing that will stop me from pursuing the things that I want to do, even if I am put in an environment where there's so much oppression, that I can still somehow break free of it and just live in my own mind and do my own thing. Because there's people who have managed to do that, you know, without an apology, which is why I don't think there needs to be an apology. We just need
but I think
people to move out of the way of it.
I mean more in action. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
oh, yeah.
Because the saying of it
I think
becomes
they
very
think that's happened, you know. I think white people think that that's happened, which is which is why they get so defensive.
That didn't happen though, and I get it. Like
It's
I
like
understand.
slavery's over, you know, just get over it.
I do get the disconnection because it's like, well, I've never had a slave, and it's like, yes, but great granddad profited quite a lot from it. You got to go to the snotty school because your dad's best friend with this guy, and you all sit around a
Yeah.
table and make business deals because that shit doesn't
Yeah.
happen over email. That happens on a golf course where all of you can be members because great granddad doesn't do that. You don't.
Not
I don't know what I benefit thing from. Are you fucking for real? Sorry.
not only that, but there's
Sorry,
people
guys.
who just don't I've met like people in their like 70s and 80s who have been to Kenya and and don't think like Kenya and Zimbabwe. Like they'll meet me as a model and be like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'll be
No,
like, they wouldn't even let me say where I'm from. They'll just see that I'm black and being like, you know, when I was around 25, I was sent to Kenya to like they say it with like a proud badge type thing.
I've been to Africa.
Like I was in Kenya policing black people on this farm, and yeah, it's like,
I
and
look
I
at
just kind of look at them like,
what?
I don't know what to say. I don't know
I
what to say, like, because they've said it like I'm supposed to be happy,
love you so
or
much.
that's how I know that some people don't understand that it's wrong, or like it's a normal thing, or that maybe they feel like um I understand that I'm supposed to be beneath them, so it's
No,
okay to like, literally.
it's what's so frustrating to me though is like we're not going to get through this shit without people genuinely standing up and saying shit that's wrong. So I really
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
that you find a space to get your poetry out because I think if your painting and performance can affect people so much, I think your written word is something that you deserve to feel safe enough to express it and let people be, you know, I'm not an angry black woman. I can just be an angry woman. Why?
yeah, yeah,
And it just, you know, I find it a lot because of who I've surrounded myself with. And there are traits of me that are so African that I can't get rid of them because I really am
yeah,
born there and lived there for 19 years. That was how I was raised around these fantastic African people. It stuck with me a lot of it. And I
yeah.
really a lot of the time because I'll stand around with other white people and I'm like, oh, I just don't fit with you. Like, and I feel so awkward because I'm like, well, I just want to go hang out with, like,
Yeah.
more
That's
fun.
actually so interesting, you know, and can be quite confusing. Like, I
Really
bet you
hard.
have the same like type of identity crisis that I would like, because for a long time I used to say that I was British all the time, only because like I was born here. I don't feel like I would connect with like I lived in Sierra Leone for a year when I was 9, but it was very obvious that I wasn't from there because of the way everybody treated me, and I guess I looked different from them because I live in a colder environment. They look way better in terms of like their skin and their hair. But so, and it was very difficult for me to say that I'm from there because of how much I got treated like I wasn't. Not in a bad way, but
I feel
because
exactly.
unfortunately imperialism happens. So when you were born here, they see you as like an upgrade of them,
But that's
unfortunately.
been taught. Africans have been
Yeah,
taught
exactly.
to go to school in Europe or anything Eurocentric is
Yeah,
attractive.
exactly. Yeah.
I can talk to your whole
So
class about black hair and not being proud of it. It makes me. This doesn't do anything. It's so
yeah.
your hair. I mean, I look at the Ethiopian like women how they braid their hair and all these different things, and there's nothing wrong with appreciating it. But ladies, please, oh, your natural hair. But I don't care if you wear a wig either. Like, you know, but the
Yeah.
same
I had
attached
that. I guess we
skin.
all have that problem when we're younger, dealing with like black hair and in school and being bullied, and especially like if you have the coarsest type of hair, it's just a journey that you have to really go through.
But it's not even a thing that I
Most
think
people
about it.
do have a very negative, unless you like are brought up in a home that is taught, I don't know, like a Pan-African home where you're raised to love yourself, and but I didn't come from that kind of home, unfortunately. Not that it's their fault, but it's just,
What all
I guess, lack of education, or imperialism as well. As you know, like Sierra Leone was like a massive target for Britain, basically, to do horrible things.
Like, I know this is a terrible thing, but at the end of that movie, Blood Diamond, I only bought it to support something it was connected with. But for me, diamonds have it makes me really, really angry that Europeans don't understand that it's fantastic marketing. They are everywhere. They're like dirt. They have ripped and savaged the whole of Africa for stuff that is as common as any other gem, really. But there's so many of them everywhere. There's jewelry stores full of them. And the guy at the end of the film, this old man, had said a line, thank God they didn't find oil here. And it just that I can never watch it again. I understand. I really appreciate being South African and our diamond trade and the horrific things people go through to get.
It's quite bad, actually. I can't remember where I read this. This was when I was really into like understanding, because I guess before I got to a point where I was making art about it, I did a lot of research because of my university course that I somehow managed to pick all the modules that had to do with like race and stuff. And one of the readings I did just completely broke my heart, actually, about reading that initially what happened in South Africa was meant to happen in Sierra Leone, but it was seen as like the white man's grave. I quote from the book. I can't remember what the book was, because the climate, the tropics there was just not, they couldn't survive in that kind of tropic. So when white people started moving there, they were dying basically because it was too hot, and they got all kinds of illnesses. So migrated to South Africa, where they had this idea. Initially, the idea was to live in harmony with Black people peacefully. This guy had the idea of doing that, and then it just all went left. And
like the South African racism has been talked about as being perfect, because what they actually did is they went to Germany, they went and actually studied, and then like it's so sickening. There's like
it was really calculated.
And it was like perfect racism. And like there's even a fantastic South African comedian who came over here, Loyiso Gola, and he came over here and he had a white cleaner in his hotel room, and he's I started throwing shit on the floor. He's like, I'm sorry. She's like, why are you doing that? He's like, I don't know, I'm from South Africa, I don't know how long this is going to last. He's sending pictures to the family WhatsApp group, and I'm like, and then everyone's like, oh, you've really done well, my son. And that's the thing, it's bringing the focus back to Africa and being proud of African, or just for me, it's such an amazing continent. When you you feel like
I think everybody knows that, though. That's what's so heartbreaking about it all. It is such a beautiful continent. It's kind of like, to me, when I read the book, it was like, so basically you think you found this very beautiful place, but the problem is to eliminate all the people on it so you can have it for yourself. And obviously they'll put up a fight, so you have to find a more clever and tactical way to do that, which was why they came up with all these concepts of race and whatever. It's very clever and cunning, probably the most clever and cunning thing mankind has seen in terms of like controlling or dominating people, which is definitely a part of human nature, I think, to this weird dominating takeover or fear of not being taken over nonsense.
What's so funny is like when straight men are super afraid of gay men, and they start saying negative things and homo and all.
Yeah.
And I thought about it the one day, and I was like, oh, you're actually as afraid as we are as women, because if a man wanted to fuck you, he could do it. But because it's something we live with every day, like in a back, you know, you watch where all the men in the road are, where you're walking, just because you are a female and we're carrying around a vagina, we can't put it at home. But what for me was so funny is like noticing that fear that those straight men have of being overpowered. I feel like it's kind of the same fear for those white people, fearing that black strength, that black creativity, that
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
based in a fear. So when we learn that they're acting like that because they're afraid, like you say, they found this beautiful thing, and why work with the natives when we can just take it? And
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
just it's so I find it so fascinating how
Hold on.
clever
Yes, sorry.
how
We have
clever.
1 minute left, but I'm going to go back
Oh,
on to
sorry.
another
Yeah.
live with you. No, we'll carry it on and then we can just end it because I feel like this is such an important conversation to have.
Yeah, I think it is too. Yeah.
So I'm going to end this live. Guys, if you're
Yeah.
watching, we'll go right back to another one. I'll
Okay,
see you.
cool. Hey. Yeah,
Mm,
as I was saying, I feel like it's just so I find it so fascinating how clever white people were at the time to come up with something so
so
clever. It's just so it's mind-blowingly clever. Like to think that that we're obviously scared at their physique because it was basically based on the physique. You can't fight off. I'm sure like the people like some of the slavers like on the border of Mali, I think, managed to fight off the people that were trying to capture them. So they had
yeah.
to refix their strategy basically because they couldn't do it physically. So yeah, it's just so mind blowing to think that they came up with the whole concept of in fact using religion to because it was Christianity they used to brainwash them into thinking that they were below. Like how it's crazy how knowledge can make you feel like
But
nothing.
it
Not
really blows my mind. And it's quite controversial because my gran is a pastor, my cousin's a pastor. They're very
really.
rooted in Jesus. And for me, the main thing that frustrates me is the physical description of Jesus. First of all, in your book,
It's
that you
quite funny.
this man is that he's blonde skinned with woolly hair. Now, you don't need to know what woolly hair means to understand it's not what, like blonde, blue eyed Jesus. I don't understand where he came from because you have to understand you took this book and you did not spread this word of God through love. If you
No,
have physical, never mind the Bible, there's historical facts that you went there
exactly.
using the Bible and God. It's not okay. Like you need to understand, like, and even going back and looking at the matriarchs that ran certain African countries and the peace
Yeah.
that they brought is sometimes a phenomenal thing to look at as a woman and to be proud of. Like, damn, these women were out here kicking some serious colonial ass out here.
Yeah.
You know, but what also frustrates me again is like coming from, you know, living under Nelson Mandela in South Africa and understanding someone who really was working through forgiveness in a real way and building people together.
Yeah.
And then going to the other presidents that we've had since,
Yeah.
I've like what frustrates me the most is I look at some black people and I'm like, why are you acting the way that these white people have said that you're going to act? Like, wouldn't that as
Yeah.
a black person make you so mad that you'd want to show them, like, actually, like when you have a woman in a boardroom, you need to have
Yeah.
that feminine side. You don't need to have a penis. You
Yeah.
are therefore adding value because who you are adds value. And
But that's
we don't
what's so even I had this like it's like what I was saying about the anger thing about people almost it's like an instant stereotype that comes with the skin like being angry. So which is why I stopped writing poetry like that because it's again doing what white people would expect me to do because of the way everything's set up for me to be angry.
yeah.
And I didn't want to fit into that box that's expected of me. So and that was such a difficult thing to do because I had to compromise my mental health basically and not express myself in a way that I felt that at the time I needed to. But now I found a different way to do that, obviously. But that's not an easy thing to do. And I think it takes a certain kind of person to be able to think that way. I don't think that, not to say that everybody's stupid, but I feel like it takes a lot of mental capacity to sit down and think of ways to not behave in a way that has been, I don't know, set up for you to fall into a trap, basically. It's a trap that has been set up, basically. It is a trap, a disgusting trap. I used to say that all the time about black boys around my area, like, why are you doing this? You're behaving in a way that's expected of you to behave, but it's way more complex than that. It's so hard to do the opposite.
But that's what I mean. Like,
so hard to do the opposite.
We talk about like the marketing of diamonds.
Yeah,
it feels like the black nation has been marketed as, you know, this kind of savage, you know, can't given anything to the world, and it's like. And I was taught that at school, and, you know, I learned about the fucking white people trekking through with wagons and crap. Like, I had one of the greatest military minds of existence in Shaka Zulu.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because a chief is not the same as your European kings and queens. And it's that language fuck up that is so, like you say, so clever that the thing that's been done, I feel, is just like diamonds, but in a negative connotation. Like any leaflets you get about violent crime, they're brown or black. A leaflet about white collar crime, Asian or white. And I'm like, you can be an arsehole.
It's not even labeled as a crime when white people as commit the same thing as will do the same thing as a black person would. It's just not. It's just he's seen as a mentally deranged person or someone who's not well, or, you know.
You can put like side by side things of like how the press treats, is it Kate, Princess Kate or whatever, and how they treat Meghan, Princess. Both exactly the
I
same.
haven't been following up with that at all, actually. But
to each other, and you can physically see in the words written and the words chosen the underlying, well, quite obvious racism, actually. And for me, I'm like, that's why black people still haven't got over it. You can't get over something that we're not all fundamentally working on changing. There's still 40.3 million people in slavery on Earth today.
Yeah, which I don't think will ever stop happening.
I feel sad for the world.
I just feel like that has always been a part of the, even before the transatlantic slavery, who was doing it? Arabs, you know. In fact, I feel like they were the worst slavers, probably.
No. Because
half of Africa is like Arab.
Sorry, Arab. You like your people a lot better. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, what they were doing before was.
I mean, it's still bad. Like the transatlantic one was very bad, but tactical in a different way. But humans have just always been doing that, and I don't think we will ever stop. You know, unfortunately, to me, it's highly associated with human nature, for me, from what I've seen and read, and to just want to dominate and overpower other people has always been a thing for humans.
Really wanted to, and to be fair, until, you know, you and I are put into a situation where, I suppose where it's different, we wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, it's like, it's strange, but what fundamentally I don't think it's human nature is when I watch children.
Yeah, that's true. Kids. And animals do it a little bit.
The thing for me is like when we can really, but a lot of it, like you say, capitalism. Like I know so many people that took a 180-degree turn when they entered into management in their little retail job. It's a little retail job. Now you're a manager though. Don't even make eye contact with me.
Power,
and I'm like,
power.
And then I thought to myself, if I use this small retail thing as like a big world thing, there's so many people afraid to speak their mind. There's so many, like I get the aggressive, Rickylee aggressive, and it makes me it makes me furious. And I'm like, why? Because I told you the truth, and then I stood there and I
Yeah.
let you find your lie. Because I
People
stood there
don't like to hear the truth. That's another
it. And
integral part of human nature. People not wanting to hear the truth about themselves. Because it's painful, you know, you're confronting a part of us or of yourself that someone's confronting a part of you that you don't want to see or you choose to ignore. Even though you could use it to improve yourself, but that's not how a lot of people's brains are wired, unfortunately. So everybody just kind of associates that with negativity. I think that can be helped though, if it was a part of like education on how to deal with negative. There's so much that should be in education that really isn't.
this mindfulness,
Which should be like I feel like that can be the artist's responsibility as well. But again, that comes with so much responsibility that I'm not willing to like I would want to do it, like I'd create the work, but I would be so scared to put it out there because of all the responsibility that comes with it. People would just label you as a leader or a teacher or this or that, and that's like a lot of pressure, you know.
Yeah. My friend was just saying that she experienced the aggressive stuff at work as well because she likes to be quite, you know, straightforward and very Italian about it, you know. Why have you not done? But yeah, and I find, you know, obviously being a female, I feel in no way, but in a way from being white South African, I can appreciate your struggle in being Black British because I feel and connect so much to a culture that I also, on the other hand, feel that I don't deserve or I don't ever want to look like I'm culturally appropriating. I'm almost white guilt and I'm overthinking everything. And I'm like, you don't have to explain to everyone that you're not a racist, Rickylee. Enter into great conversations, facilitate environments where you make it, because I can't bear to be in a room where it's only Black people, only white people, I look at them and I'm like, where are the other colors?
The thing is, that word to me has, I've evolved with that word so much, cultural appropriation, because I've decided to see it as like cultural appreciation and not knowing how to express it other than doing that really cringy thing where you get dreadlocks and you get braids and and you wear a lot of tat and you try to look like the race that you're so fond of, basically, because it's not really a bad thing at all. It's just a bit disturbing. It just shows how much they like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's not something that I've in the recent years. I haven't taken any offense to it at all, really, because again, it has nothing to do with me. That's that person doing their minute. This is their way of expressing how much they like this culture. Especially after going to a reggae festival and seeing so many white people do it. It's like, okay. In fact, I didn't just see white people do it. I saw Chinese people do it. I saw Indian people, like Asian people do it. I saw so many different people appropriating reggae culture, just to show their love and appreciation for it.
And I think that's like, I would also love to turn, like you say, that phrase cultural appropriation into cultural appreciation. Yeah. But it's when Vogue, you know, has a do-rag and they call it a silver sleeve.
Yeah. I mean, on the capitalist side, it's completely different, I think. Yeah.
That makes me mad. And that's when it's like, you know, as a female who does feel more at home and more comfortable in a Black surrounding than I do in an all-white one, I really struggle because I never want to be like, oh, she thinks she's Black, because I love and respect and appreciate everyone. I don't have a problem that I'm white. I do want to do more for, like you say, this disproportionate things, but I know my limitations. So where I can, let me support, you know, women of color in the arts, because it's still authentic to me. It's what I'm doing. But I still don't judge girls who go and get cane rows. Sometimes they look really pretty. And it's a lot.
Black people who wear weave still, even though we're not living in a time to culturally assimilate into society where you have to have straight hair. People still do it because they like the
They
texture
like
of white hair or Brazilian hair or Indian hair. Do you know what I mean? And they don't get knocked for it. It's like
it's
people still say, "Oh, it's cultural assimilation." No, it's not, because we're not living in those times. We're not living in the 1950s anymore, where you have to get a perm. People are embracing their natural hair now, you know. So it's
and that
like
should
everybody
be
does it, but for some reason, white people get in more trouble for doing it. A lot
mm,
of trouble for doing it.
because we've
Well, I know
acted
the reason why you guys get in trouble for doing it,
like what
but
we've stolen from your culture has been ours for so long. Now that it's generations where we actually like, I have a lot of time and respect for Black culture and I want to learn more about it.
yeah,
But me wanting to learn more about it so I don't seem ignorant, because there's a lot of questions. Like even like I'm going through my very feminist stage of my life, figuring that I don't, it's like the pro-Black doesn't mean you're anti-white thing. Like, because I'm
yeah,
hate men. It's been a journey, Fatima. I've really been man-hating, but I'm trying to, improve my language towards men.
yeah.
Improve. My friend pointed out to me, he's like, you love men. You're standing here talking to one. The men in your life that you love, you really love them. It's the scummy ones, the ones that let you down, but you must remove your, my negative emotional attachment. But in the feminist stuff, I know that I can't move my movement forward without strong feminist men.
Yeah.
Good, because I don't want to be alone here. I don't want to have no men anywhere. I don't want to have no women in. I want to have all of us in a safe space to just coexist.
No,
Because
that's true actually, yeah. I don't know what my views are on. I don't think I'm a feminist actually. I don't think I'm anything. I can't deal with labels, as you know, like I'd rather not attach any labels to myself other than the fact that I'm female and Black and yeah, and I make art. But in terms of like, because after researching a lot of the waves of feminism and it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I feel like there's still a lot of struggling going on. And it's just so like the whole reason why it was created was to be united. Yeah, there's so many different like feminist groups and intersectionality and white feminism and all of this. It's
yeah,
just like an ongoing circle that keeps going around and around and around and around. So
for me,
I
I
don't know
suppose,
what to think about feminism so much.
yeah, no,
Um,
to be fair though, you've done a lot more and I can tell a lot more research. Mine is just that top line, like, just give women what they deserve in those closed conversations, not in
yeah,
Tesco where we get paid equally. It's not about that. It's
yeah,
about understanding and recognizing that without half of the population, you're not going to get anywhere.
yeah,
And
that's true. Yeah,
marginalizing my voice because it isn't hypersexual or catering to your male ego. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm allowed to be really happy. I'm allowed to be really feminine. That as well has been a huge thing for me in feeling like I have to always, stand my ground and be really hard when I'm around these men because they do take the piss in that environment.
yeah.
I've had one man stand there tell me I have to call the contractor, I have to do this, my boss has to do that, and there were three women there. The minute that our boss arrived, who's a man, oh, he was on the phone, I've phoned him, and oh, I've done this and I've done that, and we were all looking at him like 10 minutes ago, and the thing around me as well, those women said nothing.
Yeah.
And that's I was like, okay, I'm not going to conquer the whole world and change it all. I need to know that I want to be fair and I want to support women where I can. So I suppose mine's very airy-fairy feminism, just the top line. Be nice.
No, it still matters though. It's feminism, isn't it? So.
So it's like the really fluffy, hippie version of it. I can't get like I talked to someone the other day about like South African racism is like, you're a different color to me, cool, we don't get along. That I could understand, like that's what I understood. I got here, my Asian friends are talking about caste systems and all this other shit, and I was like, you guys have got time to be, but you're the same color. Like it was such a disconnect for me because I was like, but you're the same.
Yeah, there's it's so complex. I guess yeah, there's loads of complexities within races. Yeah, there's still problems.
Yeah, there's tribal race in South Africa, like Xhosa and Zulu. They don't really fuck with each other. I'm like, like I would been so like just la la la. We all hate each other. Okay, cool. My country's full of racism. Then I got here and I was like, oh, you people just want to be separate.
Yeah.
You just need to be, well, you know, us Jews are the chosen ones, and us Nigerians, you know, we're the doctors and we're the fellas all over Africa. Like we can't, like, everyone knows that. Your doctors, Nigerians in your country are either doctors or drug dealers. Like, and that's funny to us. Like an English person couldn't really say that, but I can't really either. But I know it's the truth. I have Nigerian friends who laugh about it all the time. And it's a stereotype that, because I'm not really racist, I don't attach that feeling to it. So when I make a comment, it is just a, like some white people, I'm like, oh no, honky, not today, please. Today. So yeah, no, I've been in an existence where I can, you know, I have these fantastic relationships with African and Caribbean people, and I've been so blessed to be allowed into that culture and to be able to see it and appreciate it and love it and respect it and know what it is. So for me, I think it's a lot as well researching, you know, knowing that rock and roll came from an old black lady.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Because also, like, my godson being Caribbean, like, I also want him to be really proud of his African heritage. Also, that of his Jamaican background, of course, but I also want him to understand that Africa loves him, and that's where you came from. And if you don't know the country, understand the continent and understand what your race has brought, because, like, there's some Ghanaian doctor at the moment who's working on some kind of thing for COVID-19 that could potentially help with HIV. Like, that's a thing to come out of
it. Just disappears.
Well, Dr. Sebi. The world is that we're so easy to throw human beings away because it's cost someone else money.
Yeah.
And that's
it's quite sad,
But,
unfortunately, like I said before, it's all cracked down to capitalism, which I think might have to restructure itself after all of this.
I think it's going to take a long, hard.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens after COVID-19 passes. I'm hoping that artists will take over the world. I'm joking. No, I don't hope that. But there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, like I've been saying.
Fatima would be running this country today, guys, but it's a bit much responsibility. She's popped off to do a painting. She'll be right back.
Imagine me as Prime Minister. Wow, yeah.
Oh, it would be amazing.
I think so, yeah. I don't know. I think it would be a bit mad, but...
No, I'm definitely here for you. I'll cabinet minister the white meetings and we'll have it. Like, okay, guys, we're going to learn about someone else now for a change. But no, it's been really interesting, and thank you for not entertaining the conversation, but thank you for sharing, because I always like to have this conversation because I feel like it's just important that we're talking about it. It's uncomfortable to know what my ancestors have done, possibly to yours.
Yeah.
But in knowing you,
possibly, actually, because I do have roots of like my dad's side were returned slaves to Sierra Leone, so slavery did impact my life, my family line.
100%. And the more that I can get to know you and understand you, the more that we realize that all that other stuff, all of it, the feminism, the race, it's all just new ways to separate one another. Like, your family want to have food, they want to be safe, they want the best for their family. That's the same in every single family. You know, without the stress of work and the stress of, you know, appealing to everyone. You know, maybe your mom wouldn't have been on drugs. Not your mom, sorry. I mean, like, you know, in general scope. Like, I've had a really horrible experience where my mom has been on drugs my whole life. And it's been really, really hard to kind of be able to separate that. But also I think to myself, what are the things that led her to that life? You know, what was she trying to escape? Because I feel like when you're doing drugs at that extent, you're not spiritually or mentally capable of handling the stresses of daily life. But I don't think we're So a lot of her trauma, obviously went down onto her three children, and it's unfortunate because I don't speak with her anymore. But that trauma is also, it's destroyed my family. For her not even being aware of her trauma, she destroyed years and years of my self-esteem, my confidence, because I put a lot of weight, even though she was a bad mother, in a sense of being a drug addict, a bad mom.
Yeah.
I still put so much weight on, I still search for her approval even to today. And it's
everybody does from their mum,
everyone, like, I had a fantastic father. He was murdered in South Africa, but he was like, I never felt unloved. I always, every phone call was, I love you. And he had custody of me from when I was really small. So I really suffer when everyone's like, oh, mom's the best. And I'm like, oh. Like, my stepmother is phenomenal. My aunts, my grandmother's great moms. But for myself, my personal experience is that a mom doesn't really, you're second to her selfish behavior. So there has been no one but my father who's put me and my well-being ahead of his own. So it's really, that can be that's quite tough to get through and get over that kind of negative thinking. And I used to care about everything. But also, I've also been raised by...
that's traumatic, isn't it?
That's
something that could take you a whole lifetime to get over, Not even get over, just deal with, because I don't actually believe you fully get over traumatic experiences. I feel like you deal with them throughout your life. You find different ways, because they pop up, like at times when you least expect, especially when you think you're over it, which is your ego telling you that, oh yeah, it's just like, your ego is just there to protect you. But I don't think it's actually something you should live in, even though the world that we live in has been set up for us to do that. So it's really hard to do the opposite.
Exactly. And then I think to myself, if there was a world where she could have done the things that she really wanted instead of maybe having kids, maybe doing that was just, sort of, I was mistake number one. Sorry. I was told I was planned by an 18 and 19-year-old. Sorry. I was the planned one. The other ones were the mistake. I'm like, you can't say that to your children. Like, the language use, and, like...
It's quite funny.
Yeah, it's funny now, but, like, she'd be destructive, and I felt sad because everything that she went into, like, business-wise, she would make millions in profit. But then she'd become bored because she was very clever, but wasn't told she was clever her whole life. So she'd do destructive, like, things that would, she was more looking to piss her father off because he wouldn't hug her. And, like, I get that. That's traumatic. But you also have to look at your father and think, is he a huggy kind of guy? Can I be expecting to get that level of emotion from someone that isn't capable of giving it to me? And that's how I have to look at it. Like, maybe you just weren't meant to have kids, because she's hella funny. Like, you would meet her and she'd have you crying with laughter in the first 5 minutes. Like, she's the most outrageous, doesn't give a fuck. And a lot of my humor and my outrageousness comes from living with her in my teenage years. So there's parts in me that I cannot, sometimes I don't want to change, to be honest. But the trauma side, like trying to find, like Guy yesterday with the mindfulness stuff, he's saying, like, those deeper traumas where you carry that negative saying from a parent or a teacher that discourages you to do something, that's what mindfulness, you have to build it up almost like a muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
Traumas, because obviously I feel like, to be fair, my trauma connected to her needs to have therapy and a proper work through it, because I've just hid from it. You try to just get on with your day to day, but this time of being in this pandemic and being sort of faced with being alone a lot, it's been really tough for me in that respect. I've spent a few days like really...
That's why. This is why I'm saying, as bad as it sounds, I think this is such a good time to work on yourself right now. It's forcing people to do... This is why people are going crazy, because it's making them confront themselves in ways that going to work in capitalism is designed to not make you want to do. you know.
Exactly.
And once you get in the hang of realizing what you're actually here to do, like your purpose, like your real true purpose, which is like your intuition, what you really want to do, not your job, it's game over for capitalism. Or
It
like, it really is. Like, you won't be going back to your retail job. Or not to put any pressure on anyone
no,
looking
of course, it has to be in your
right
own
now,
time.
but
You have to be brave enough.
when times like this comes, I think that's the scariest part, really, like confronting those things that you haven't had time to, or you've been avoiding. They just, even if you don't want them to pop up, they will, because we don't have anything to do right now,
Yeah.
you know. So
No,
I don't feel like
definitely.
you're doing anything wrong by thinking about it, or letting it affect you. I feel like that's just part of your healing process, and you should embrace it. Um, Even just the way you're talking about it now is part of it, you know. Like, I feel like that's
Yeah, no,
important.
I
Thank you
think,
for sharing that. That's quite personal.
oh, no, thank you
So
for,
yeah.
you feel comfortable to share that. But yeah, it is all the stages of like real anger and grief, connected to her, and so much anxiety. And, I'm getting around to that point again where it's like, armed with what she was armed with, she just did the best she could. But it also doesn't it doesn't give her free reign to come into my life anymore, because her
Yeah.
reactions are too powerful for me to step to one side. She's also a character that doesn't want to self-improve, that doesn't want to move forward, and that's not what I have space for in my life right now. But
No,
the
yeah.
anger, the hatred for her is kind of dissipating, and I'm
Yeah.
starting to think, okay, well, if I had her as a parent, and I'm now able to, at this age of my life, step back and, like you say, really look at what am I doing? Who am I as a person? What do I want to change? I have the capacity to be self-aware. She doesn't have that.
Yeah, yeah. I was just about to say you're very self-aware, so that's a start. Like, the fact that you're pointing out all these things is makes a massive difference. Like, it means you can actually do something about it because you've acknowledged it.
Yeah, and that's
So
where I was saying to Guy yesterday, I'm kind of in that space where I know the theory, but the practical terrifies me about meditation. And I suppose because the trauma for me is so fresh and deep, like it is for each of us, I may be a bit nervous, or I don't know how to let go of these negative feelings towards her without sort of letting go of her completely, which is
I
sounds
don't
strange.
think it's almost about like I don't even know how to say this, but I don't think I understand what people mean by like letting go, or um moving on, or like, because part of like what I learned in meditation from my 1 hour meditation class at Heavenly's by some really cool guy called Ignacio. He was saying that you can't actually freeze your thoughts. Like, you can't, like, that's the misconception we all get about meditation, that you can stop your thoughts, you can like switch off and just feel and think nothing. It's more like letting them, watching them pass by, and just being like, oh, I see you, but I'm just gonna let you pass by, you know. And
And
just
that's
like,
what
and
Guy
and
was.
not obsessing over the emotions that come with those thoughts, just like looking at them and just letting them go by, just feeling them basically, and just not, I guess, holding on to them too much, like obsessing. No, not, obsessing isn't the word, but just feeding them. He said it's bad to feed them, basically.
Yes, like
Um,
exactly. And Guy was saying, like, even the useless thoughts that don't
yeah,
serve anything, acknowledge them, but then get back to, like, even if I'm having a cup of tea, and then I'll start racing, like, I've got to email Fatima, I've got to talk to this person, blah blah blah. No, no,
yeah,
no. I'm having a cup of tea. Like,
yeah, exactly. Being
I'm really,
present helps as well.
yeah, and that's what the whole mindfulness, like, what's now, where I feel apprehensive or scared now
Yeah,
is the implementation of the, maybe almost in a more positive way, afraid of the power that it'll bring and the release, because it's all I've had for so long that
yeah.
I
It's the
almost
fear of the unknown, isn't it? Yeah,
scared to let go of that sort of trauma, because there'll be a hole in my heart that trauma filled, and like I can't. It's so negative to hold on to it. But I also think that might be why I'm so sort of afraid. Like I sat in my room yesterday, I'm like, sit down for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, nah, you can do it tomorrow.
I'm not. I think you'll get there. Eventually. I think. It's like I said before. It's part of a journey where and the stage that you're at right now is just you've acknowledged it. You know, you acknowledge that you have this issue, and you know what the next step is. But I think when you're ready to, which won't be up to you, I guess it's up to your heart, or it will just naturally happen if you keep going at the pace that you're going now. It's easier said than done. Like I'm saying all of this, but I'm going through the same thing with my traumas and issues as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ignacio, for the mindfulness meditation class, because it really does help to get reeled back in, to be reminded about those kind of things, about how you should treat your thoughts and your emotions, and because we don't get taught that stuff in school. You know, this is the kind of shit you got to pay for, but it's free at Heavenly's. But yeah, it's really complicated, and it's very, very valuable knowledge that if more people had access to knowing that kind of stuff, I think people would be better and treat themselves better, which would therefore lead to treating other people better. Unfortunately, I don't make mindfulness art. But who knows?
But you're mindful of who you are and what you're honestly going through.
Yeah, and that's my response. That's the most I can do right now. As like, I'm just, because when I was younger, I had like a massive complex over saving the world complex and not taking care of myself, which made me have so many negative and unhealthy emotions about myself and my work and where I was going and where I was at, because as RuPaul said yesterday on RuPaul's Drag Race, when you're on the plane and the plane is crashing, what do? You have to put the gas mask on yourself first before you can help anyone else. So
self-love, self-identity, and it does, the more you learn about yourself, the less you are sort of concerned with saving the whole world, and you know that what I can change needs to be in me, and you stop that lying to yourself monologue where it's like, okay, actually it's okay for me to be selfish and not want to save everyone who, you know, like a home for me is a big deal. Like if I was to ever hear that you were homeless, have a bed on my studio floor, like I can't bear the thought of anyone that I know in any capacity, where it's friends or, you know, friends who've become like family. I'll always make a home where I have a safe space for someone to stay, because that for me is my safe space that I'm able to create. So yeah, it's important to facilitate all sections of you and to celebrate the angry Black woman in you, to celebrate the kind, nice, polite, passionate, funny, exactly. Now, I want so badly for women to just be able to feel free to be feminine and to be soft or to be hard or to be just
whatever they want to be queer, to be dominant, to be masculine, to just be yourself, basically. I think that's really important.
And not with everyone else. Be really, like I say to people, my only expectation of you as a friend is that you're honest with me. But I know in my heart I cannot control that either. So for me to even have that expectation on you as a friend is not fair, because people feel they need to be able to
Thanks, Helena. No, my friend said biggest joker.
And that's the thing. You should, you know, and we shouldn't feel uncomfortable in any capacity. And I can only sort of relate and connect to you in the way of feeling a bit out of place and being a woman. I feel I can relate to you on certain aspects of the identity crisis, not at all living as a Black woman in today's society. But I feel like these conversations are so fundamental. these are great to have because we aren't trying to change the world, you know. I would love to just give you a bit more confidence to put your poetry out there one day, to let you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I will do it one day, but just not right now. I think like later
Yeah,
on in life, I'm gonna be brave enough to do it. But right now, I don't think I'll be able to deal with on top of like making the prints and figurative work. I'm just not in a place to deal with people
cool.
commenting on my poetry at the moment because it will just, I don't know, just take it all the way there, you know. It would probably make me like shut down, I think, or just
But
not come out again.
I think I'm just so here for, you know, let's celebrate these African queens. I'm really here for it. So I
Thank
don't
you.
ever want to
Thank
feel like
you.
I'm pushing you, but if there's a push that you need, I'm happy to right over.
Sometimes I do need a push, you know. Sometimes I get in my head quite a lot about things, and it has. I think some of the pivotal moments have been like when people have just been like, just do it, like you're overthinking about it, just do it. Because I'm a massive overthinker, and sometimes I do need to just get on with it or just not think about it too much. Unfortunately, my brain is a bit like a calculator or a computer where it's just everything has to be perfect or it's not, or has to be exactly how I've imagined it, even though that's hardly the case when people make stuff. It never turns out the way it is in your head. Especially when you don't have money. It's like,
You have to be really, really inventive. I got
yeah, exactly.
lots of my art supplies actually came from like birthday and Christmas presents because my friend, you had no money, and now I have. I'm okay, but I don't have enough money yet. But still, it was
So
yeah, it's
hard.
quite.
It's one of the hardest things to do, like as a visual person, I think, is to manifest your visions, you know, and exactly how you've seen it in your head. That's just like, it's really tough, you know. It's hard.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Um,
This
especially
is
when you're doing it with people as well, because you can't, or trying to make people understand what you can see, and they just can't see it. It's quite difficult. Um,
I'm very lucky the design work that I've done with my sister over the years. Like I could say to her like a sentence or like show her kind of one reference picture. I'll come up the next day because she'll work all through the night, and she open my laptop and I open it and I'm like, this is exactly how I saw it in my mind. Like, how did you do
oh,
that?
that's great. See,
And it's so sick that we have like we can just say these really odd things to each other and we just get it. And I'm
that's
really
so
blessed to
cool.
have a creative collaborator like that in my house, in my collective, where I can,
Yeah.
if I'm feeling away, like you say, it's kind of lonely, is why I started the collective as well, because it's so solitary. And I want you to be able to, like, if you're having your show, phone one of us for advice or for a drink or
Yeah, of course, man.
freaking out. Yeah, I've been really proud of the collective that we have. You know, everyone's really on point, trying to support, help as much as they can. They share as much
Exactly.
stuff as possible, and they really bring a lot of value and accountability for me. You know, like I now have these people that need me to, you know, be organized and have
Yeah.
stuff ready to go, and I love that. So it's really nice that they've been my accountability stick. Like, you have to do it.
Good, man. No, I just need to say thank you actually for giving me a platform to do all of it, you know, to get myself out there. Because unfortunately for me, I've always been quite like a hidden, like I'm not I don't think I'm very introverted, but I'm just quite very private.
Yeah.
Which I'm trying to like break out of because it's not doing me any good, like being so private about my work. As much as it's for me, and it's helped me heal a lot in different ways. I feel like in order for me to like encourage myself to do more is to get it out there basically and try and even like sell it and just try and like get people to like what you told me earlier just helped so much, like the way my work affected your emotions and how you look at things or your perspective, and your traumas even. So like that's really encouraging, like but I just don't want to hurt anyone. basically, but I can't control that again.
No, you really can't. And that's
Because
why.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't make happy art all the time. Like a lot of it comes from pain or dealing with something traumatic. So it's not always gonna I guess what I'm hoping for with putting it out there is that if you're going through something similar or something sad or traumatic, that my work makes you feel some type of light or relate you can relate to it in some way, but in a good way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it makes you feel comfort or healing, or it won't do the same thing for you as it's done for me, but it will do something good, I hope, you know.
No, I really, to be fair, I don't think that you can't have an opinion when you look at your work. And then it's that thing as artists that we need to then, that's none of our business. You know what I mean? Like, because I
Yeah,
think, some get lost in, getting gassed and getting the fame and the recognition. And then, it's all about understanding that people's opinions, as they matter in order to be commercial and to sell, of course, but they're also none of our business, and we must remain as honest as possible, and they'll resonate with that. They can
yeah.
tell when it's fluffy bullshit and when it's authentic.
I think that's another one of my struggles as well with putting myself out there. I actually really I don't want to be famous at all. Like I don't, that's just, again, it's just too much responsibility and too much, I'm just easily overwhelmed. Like I easily get that horrible feeling in my stomach over people, I don't know, man. It's just art, and sometimes you get sensitive about your shit.
Yeah.
It's just such a sensitive thing for someone to like talk about the impact your work has had on them. So I can't imagine like what it would be like to be on a global scale. In fact, I've avoided thinking about that because but it would be good in terms of money. Like it's really confusing because I want to make money out of it, but I don't want to be famous, so I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't want to. I don't know how it's gonna work really, which is why I said like before, I have a lot of character building to do with like my shyness and being private, and yeah, so I have a lot of work to do in that field.
It is our job at the end of the day to be artists. So there's
Yeah,
also elements we can take from the way other people structure their days to make it more business-like and a little bit
yeah,
less sensitive, or you can look at anonymity in a different name later on. Like
yeah,
you say, you're still finding your way, but just again, how passionate you are and how you're able to hold a conversation without losing your shit and getting really mad if I say something stupid. Like, you're a thoughtful person. So I think what's nice is if people can get to know a little bit more, and not necessarily like all your private stuff, but just a little bit more of you. I think it
okay,
can only benefit your art for sure, because it's been
yeah.
really, to be fair, we're like 13 minutes away from being done with hour 2, and I feel like we're talking for 10 minutes. I had a really good time. I hope you guys
Yeah,
have
I've
your
had
little.
a really great time talking to you too. Yeah.
And that's why I love that this is not like, to be fair, I want to talk a bit about you selling your art before we wrap the second hour up, but I'm so glad we didn't try to force this into 1 hour, because this has been
No, yeah. It's been really
fun.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and talking to people who are really affected by the disproportionate way society marginalizes them, and, you know,
Exactly.
person to be less ignorant and helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And just for you to talk a little bit now just about how people can get in touch with you. Were posting some things about selling your art lately. So if you can
Yeah,
just.
so as you guys know, there's been like COVID-19, putting us artists out of business. So yeah, I haven't been able to get a lot of modeling done. So I thought now would be a good time to start selling some prints and some figurative pieces. I might even paint some still lifes because that's what I'm training to do, to paint from life. So support me, man. And so I'm doing this thing called the Artist Support Pledge that can't remember the guy's name. I'm really sorry, but this guy set up.
You can send me some stuff and I'll post it onto Hanway after we're done, so people can get with him and you and do things.
Cool, yeah. This guy's just set up this thing for artists to like basically sell their works for no more than £200, and when you get to £1,000, you buy somebody else's work for £200. So it's a really good way to help other artists out. And so far I'm doing okay, but could do with some more help, guys. So you know, I've tried not to make it too pricey with like the prints and stuff, because I've always been a fan of art being affordable, as I'm not really rich myself. So and yeah, I feel like people should, you know, who don't have a lot of money should have access to art that they enjoy. And so yeah, if you're interested, my email address is linked to my Instagram. If you just tap on the email, if you have any questions you want to ask me about it, or you could just DM me on Instagram. And yeah, that's it really.
Oh, and Alessandra is saying you girls have been great company this morning and a fantastic inspiration. Oh, thanks, lovely.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up, but yeah, I'd love to do one of these in a few months and see how you are and your progress of your performance and your figurative stuff, and no pressure on your poetry, I promise. Also, you know, when the other exhibition is coming out that my friend's doing, celebrating African female artists and stuff, we must definitely see if we can link you up with him.
Yeah, do, man, do. I'll be so happy to connect with other artists that are, you know, people of color as well, because I don't really get to connect with painters, or like I know a handful, but I don't know like loads. And I know there's loads out there, so it'll be really nice to connect with them, collaborate and stuff.
I'd like to do, like, obviously more stuff with like networking nights at the bar. So like set it up for a gallery to have nights where you invite your handful of painters, and you know, we have a painting evening where we maybe discuss something. Because I think this is the time now where a lot more people have been able to be creative and we want to be near each other. So I'm really hoping that we can get a good bunch of us together as a support structure as well, not just, you know, oh, you're an artist, so am I. Like, we want to live in. We want to be like, come here, let me hug you.
We've got no time for that.
We're all about promoting and making sure we can all get just the little piece of a huge pie that's out there. There's nothing wrong with that. We all just want to have.
Yeah. It's not a competition.
No, it's all shine. And I've learned that from selling very weird flat pack Swedish furniture. There is something for everybody. Like sometimes you look at things, who is going to buy that? And everyone does. So there's unique, wonderful crazies. So that's good. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. This will be up for 24 hours, and we'll also record it and put it somewhere like YouTube or something when I know what I'm doing. But yeah, Fatima, thank you so much. I had such an awesome morning.
Thank you so much, man. I had such a great conversation with you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been amazing. And
stay away from each other.
Stay tuned,
But
please support sister.
Okay, cool, guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.